These Plaud devices don't have screens. One doesn't even have buttons. They're oddly quiet and minimalist products in a world obsessed with loud, bombastic, responsive AI gadgets. You won't find a talking assistant in them, and there's no weird projected light show. They're just two tiny devices, each promising one simple thing to remember for you, like a personal secretary who takes all your notes. But here's the thing, that memory isn't perfect. It gets things mostly right, but sometimes it misses names or flubs numbers. It summarizes what you heard in ways that are almost accurate, but not actually accurate. So today, I want to ask if the Plaud, NotePin, and Note are useful, but also I want to ask something bigger. When AI replaces memory and mostly gets it right, is that good enough? Or is that worse than forgetting entirely? Right up front, Plaud's Note and NotePin take a very different approach to AI hardware, and that's probably a good thing. If you were paying attention in 2024, it seems like every other day, another company launched another AI gadget. The Rabbit R1 launched as a little red device that promised to do everything your phone could do, completely through voice, even if it had never done those actions before. Somehow, it would just learn from you. And the Humane AI Pin promised to be a phone without a screen, capable of making calls, sending text messages, even doing basic info searches without any need to touch it. You just use your voice and it'd display things with a fancy projector that beamed text onto your hand. Both those devices made wild promises, packaged in equally wild hardware, and ultimately were wild failures that honestly didn't deliver on anything they promised. Plaud, with its two gadgets, is going a distinctly different route. Instead of hardware that stands out, the Note and NotePin are quiet, understated. They blend in. Instead of promising to effectively replace your entire smartphone through AI-powered voice interactions, Plaud wants to replace just one potential function of your phone. And no, you don't need to talk to your Plaud device at all, at least not the same way other AI gadgets need. We'll get into the software in a second, but for now you should know that both these gadgets use the same software and essentially accomplish the same task. The first thing that differs them is the form factor of the two gadgets. The Note, which Plaud released first, is credit card sized, and it's a device that you stick to the back of your phone with the included case, or like I'm using here, a nicer one that Plaud sells. If you have MagSafe, it just sticks right on the back of your phone. And if you don't, Plaud includes a nice little magnetic ring that just lets you stick it to any other phone. It's also kind of hard to get out of that case when you want to, which you don't have to very often because the charging port is available on the back while it's in the case. But it's a snug fit. I kind of like that because it means you won't lose it. The NotePin, on the other hand, is a pill-shaped device. And as the name suggests, you pin it to your chest with an included magnet. And if you don't like that option, you can strap it to your wrist or hang it from your neck with a necklace. The Note does have a few benefits over the NotePin, including longer battery life and a specific microphone you can use to record phone calls. You just have to flip a little switch to enable that microphone. But the NotePin is smaller and lighter. In theory, it doesn't feel that way, but it really is, and has more options for carrying it with you. Both have 64 gigs of internal memory, which has been more than enough for my needs, and eventually just write over the old stuff. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention repairability. And to be frank, there isn't any, and that's really disappointing. I had a small bit of hope because I found tiny screws on both devices, but removing those didn't accomplish anything. Even with a suction cup, I couldn't get either the Note or the NotePin to budge. They must be glued, and heavily so. That means someday the battery will stop holding a charge and you'll have no choice but to throw them away, and I really don't like that. Single-use products that have to go in the landfill for basically disposable parts is a terrible thing. All the same, I still prefer the look of the two Plaud devices. They're subtle enough that people might not notice you wearing or carrying them, and it's easy to take them with you everywhere, which is important because the whole idea behind the Note and the NotePin is to use them to record and transcribe conversations. Though you should, of course, keep in mind your local laws Are you allowed to record where you're at? And even if you are, ethically, maybe let people know what you're doing. If all that sounds familiar, you may be thinking of the Be Pioneered band, which promises to become a personal AI assistant by listening to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But Plaud went a different route, and it isn't promising to be the same sort of personal assistant the Bee wants to be. The Bee is always on by default, always recording by default. Plaud went with an off and not recording operation instead. They don't listen unless you specifically hit record. You do that, set the device somewhere where it can hear what's going on, and then just forget about it, at least until you're done recording. The real magic happens later. Both the Note and NotePin are powered by the Plaud app, and once paired, transfer your recordings over to that app. You can use features to trim the recordings, merge them if you need, upload them to the cloud for transcribing, and more. Plaud uses GPT 4.1, O3 Mini, Claude 3.7 Sonnet, and Gemini 2.5 Pro to transcribe the audio. And you can use pre-made prompts to tailor what that final result looks like. Do you want a basic summary, a to-do list, a class lecture-focused recap? You can choose all that and more. And if you don't like the Plaud provided options, you can create your own or download a community-made option. Just keep in mind that whole process is going to take time. The longer the audio file is that you upload, the longer it takes to get the result. And of course, there's a potential subscription. You can transcribe 300 minutes a month for free, but if you need more, you either pay $100 a year for a pro plan that lets you transcribe 1,200 minutes a month, or $240 a year for an unlimited plan. That's on top of the $200 cost for these gadgets. For most people, I think the free plan might be enough though, especially if you make a point to trim the dead space out of your audio clips before you upload them. And that's something the Plaud app offers to do with just the push of a button. The app does have a few other handy features I like. You can name speakers, for instance, and doing that will update the summary accordingly. And this is really cool. You can share those summaries to other people by sending them a link. That shared summary is even dynamic. If you make changes to that summary in the Plaud app after the fact, the browser version you sent out will show the changes after they refresh or load it again for the first time, second time, whatever it may be. And that's the two sides of this equation. One component hardware, the other software. Use the gadget to record, use the phone app to transcribe. And I can practically hear all of you typing the same comment right now. Why can't this just be an app? Well, let's get one thing out of the way. This can absolutely just be an app. Even Plaud seems to know that. If you head into the app, you'll find the option to use your phone to record instead of a Plaud device. You don't even have to buy a Note or NotePin to do that. And for that matter, in theory, you could always just record audio with a basic recorder app and just upload that to an AI with built-in transcription capabilities. I say in theory because the most common AI services, which is ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they don't actually transcribe audio. The closest is Google AI Studio, which you can prompt to accomplish the same thing, but rather than tell you how many minutes you can transcribe, it gives you a 1,000,000 token limit per chat thread. That's just because it's not primarily meant for this purpose. Based on my testing, that token limit's enough to transcribe up to a 360-minute conversation. But you won't be able to do any follow-ups once that token limit runs out, so you can't make any more changes or ask for any more clarifications, anything. Outside of that, you'll want a specific service like Otter, Descript, or Riverside. But just like Plaud, all those programs are pushing subscriptions, and where they even offer them have some pretty heavy limits on the free level of those subscriptions. The most generous is probably Otter, which matches Plaud's 300 minutes per month, so long as you record in the Otter app and only transcribe 30-minute conversations. That's a limitation that Plaud doesn't have. But just because you can do something in an app doesn't honestly actually mean you should. Using your app to record comes with serious limitations you want to think through, like the fact that you're now depending on your phone's battery life, or that some phones aren't great at multitasking. You can put that recording app in the background and then suddenly you might lose the entire recording because it decides to close that app. And the Note and NotePin's microphones, they're honestly better than you'd expect. Something not every phone or laptop can say. It's a case of jack of all trades, master of none. Yes, you absolutely can do this with an app and a phone. And if you only ever occasionally need to record conversations and have them transcribed, that's honestly probably good enough. But if you find yourself regularly needing this service, then a dedicated device might be better. Might, because there's still that memory problem I mentioned earlier. I've been living with both the Note and the NotePin for well over a month, and to be frank, there's no denying the convenience of these two gadgets. I set them down to record, and I didn't bother to take notes in important meetings. Instead, for once, I was able to give my full attention to the people speaking, and in part, I remembered things better afterwards since I wasn't doing two things at once. Afterwards, I uploaded the recordings and transcribed them. I had a better summary that was faster and more detailed than anything that I'd ever do on my own. But here's another unfortunate truth. Nearly every one of those summaries had at least one mistake. Most had multiple mistakes. The most common mistakes were names and numbers. If someone listed stats, the Plaud summary almost always had it wrong. And the more uncommon the name, the more likely it was for Plaud to get it wrong. In one case, I really don't understand what happened. It decided that a speaker who identified themselves, named Patty, was in fact named Camille. And that's not even close. I don't understand it. It was loud and clear in the audio recording. I just don't know how I feel about that. Because on the one hand, I can listen to the audio and find the mistakes. But on the other, that sort of defeats the point, doesn't it? And that's bound to happen with any AI you use to generate summaries of audio recordings. So that's not just a Plaud thing, but it's still a fact. At the end of the day, Plaud gets names, dates, and other numbers wrong. But hear me out. You probably get all those details wrong too. Haven't we all said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm terrible with names. Who are you? Bob? Oh, Jenny. Or had trouble remembering that crucial date which really mattered? Are we better off if we rely on our own memories, which have been proven flawed time and time and time again? At least with an audio recording, we can discover those incorrect details. But then again, you can just use a plain old audio recorder. As long as we know to expect the problems, we can account for them. I don't have any truth belief that these mistakes will improve, in part because Plaud isn't even creating or adding to the AIs it's using, so it can't promise those improvements. And also, there's an old maxim in tech. If it isn't good enough today, don't buy it on the hope it will be someday. It probably won't. So, if you can't accept any inaccuracies, if you would fire the secretary who gets names and dates wrong, then that answers your question on whether to rely on any kind of AI service to be your second brain like this kind of says it could be. But for everyone else, the real question comes down to this. Do you really need anything like this at all? If you can say to yourself, I'd use it maybe once or twice a month at most, then frankly, you probably don't need this. But if you find yourself in a daily or weekly meeting and struggling to keep up while taking notes, like I have a lot, something like this is a godsend. As long as you can live with the price, $200 plus a potential subscription, and the knowledge that you'll throw otherwise perfectly good devices away when the batteries stop holding a charge. If it's right for you, it's really good. Just know to expect errors, be ready to correct them, and at least when you do, they kind of flow through the whole summary. They're actually not bad. They're just not for everyone. That's it for now, but before you go, please hit the subscribe button or consider becoming a member to help fund this channel. That's what's made this cool background possible. Until next time, bye!